The following video contains language that may be inappropriate for young viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories.
Hi everybody, my name is Jason Boss and you are on the record with Behind the Bars, and I have with me my good friend Barry Chappel. He is coming to us live from the Arizona State Penitentiary. Barry has been incarcerated for a very long time, and for those who have not seen his other podcasts, please check them out. There's a couple of them listed. I will post them right now. You guys can click on the link at the top. And Barry, how are you doing, my friend? How's your week going?
Oh, brother, it's just a typical prison life. You get your routine going one day, the next day you slam down for reason you don't even know what. But it's just a challenge each day.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. So you've been in there. What's your total year count right now? Where are you at right now?
Well, counting jail time, I'm down 10 years and about 7 months.
Okay, almost 11 years. And do you feel like you've? That's over a decade inside of jail. Do you feel like you're a different person than the day that you stepped in to the day you are now?
You know, that's the question I've wondered myself, but, you know, I don't think I'm really a different person now. Of course, my views have changed with the times, of course, for sure, but as far as I've always had this awareness of myself, I guess you could say, my own set of rules, I guess we'll go by that, my own code, I guess.
And how old are you right now?
I'll be 71 in May.
71, so you're 60, so you've been in there since about 60 years old. And you know, from an aging process, that's a lot of years when you're up into the years. How has I mean, you're a lot older than a lot of the spring chickens that are in and around you. Are you the minority, being the older one in your area, or are there a lot of older gentlemen like yourself?
I would say 90% are under 40. It's really sad to see the younger generations have no moral compasses. I mean, I wanted to talk, but at least I stayed out in the world and paid taxes and was a functioning citizen for 60 years. But whenever you cross the line, you have to pay for it, and that's why I'm here. I've crossed the line.
And, you know, you think that most of these guys are under 40. What is the majority of the crime that are is it drug crimes, or what kind of crimes do you see as an average that people are involved in?
Well, going off the people here, I would say the majority is drug-related, whether it was actual sales or distribution. It's all boils down to drug use and time for that habit, whether it's stealing or robbing or whatever the case may be. It all goes back to drugs, basically, the majority. Because you judge out on what happens in here, you see it day in and day out. That's just how people cope. Even inside here, when they don't have deals out in the world, it's even in here, even though you got your meals and stuff, some people can't cope, and they use that as a coping mechanism. It's like people outside go to the liquor store in the afternoons. People here get high.
Mm-hmm. And how would
they may cook here too.
how would you say how would you say the drugs are brought in?
Well, if it was an educated guess, I'd say it was the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Because all my incoming mail is even copied before I ever get it. So I don't touch nothing that comes in through the mail unless it's a book from the publisher or authorized distributor. And even then, they're really strict on who which ones are allowed to even send things into you. You ran into that situation yourself, providing prisoners with rifles.
Mm-hmm. If you wanted to score some drugs, could you score some drugs yourself right now?
Well, it might take me 30 minutes.
Okay. So, are you, because of your age, where you are right now, are you treated differently by the inmates? Do you get more respect? Do you get less respect? Is there any better things that older age folks would have amongst younger age, being in this general population? Do you get bullied the same? What's it like?
Well, if you take into account, if you're in the general population, it's a different, more set of code. You have your different cliques, and when you, like in Woods, which is the white race, you would have a guy ahead over you, and he would keep you in line and keep the youngsters in line, and they protect their elders. But when you're in a general population, it's a whole lot structured. When you go down into the integrated housing where it's all mixed in, but you're sharing cells with any race. I've shared cells with Native Americans, blacks, Chicanos, Texas. It's not no set rule. Mm-hmm. And then this starts breaking down, whether it's the older ones are not as respected, believe me, because there's no, when you have no accountability, there's no rules.
Hmm. So is it wild in there? I mean, are you treated differently? Do they give you any respect at all, or no?
That's the part that I don't feel like I'm sure my respect. And people will walk all over you in here. That's thing about when you're a believer and try to do as you should, people sometimes force you to take a stand that you don't want to have to impose on someone, but it's just the way prison is, It's dog eat dog sometimes.
Can you explain that a little bit, what you mean by that? I mean, what have you seen? What stands have you...
Well, if you have something that someone wants and someone bigger than you decide they're going to take it, and they will watch and study you and see if you're a pushover and push on you they'll first start with borrowing a little coffee, or can I get an envelope from you, and you never see it again. Of course, that's just part of it, but when it goes beyond that, anything's possible. But I've seen people that would come in and tell someone's TV while they're going to chow and not think nothing about it.
Hmm.
So it's just a free-for-all a lot of times. And the last 2 weeks, I've been locked down 5 days out of the last 13 days.
Why did they...
Nothing I did.
Right. Why did they say you're locked down?
Well, they say it was due to episodes of people, drug episodes. And like this week, we were locked down 2 days. These past 2 days, I just come off lockdown from Monday night to this morning.
Mm.
And I got a UA yesterday, which is a urinalysis to see if I had any drugs in my system, which I didn't. But my cell even got searched, which I don't do drugs, which I've never had a drug ticket in 10 years. But it's just a general punishment for the general, everybody in general. You suffer the consequences of the people around you in here.
So they're trying to get the other inmates to police the drugs? Is that what they're trying to do?
I don't know if it's so much to police the drugs as to make the the staff's job easier. These people, I don't even know what kind of drugs they're doing when people are doing these episodes and flopping around and fighting and going berserk. They got drugs now. I don't even know what they're doing. To be honest with you.
Yeah, so they just had an episode in Texas where they had, it was on I think the 15th of January, and they had like 5 deaths in 2 days. One of them was in death row, and this guy, they said, that was always playing Wolf, he said he's calling Wolf on stuff. Well, he said he had heart problems or chest problems, and they didn't respond to him. So when they did respond to him an hour later, he was dead. Then they had 2 guys up on top in general population, and they did fentanyl, and they took a flying leap off the 3rd story of something or the other. And then they had another dude who was being stabbed, and he jumped off the balcony and died trying to save his own life. And so they've been locked down now still to this day. So they're almost 40 days into this as well, of a straight lockdown. So everybody's being locked down, it seems.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That fentanyl, I've never done it, but they say if you can do it one time, it'll be your last time. And why anybody want to do that, I have no idea. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes people do stupid things. I'm a model myself,
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I don't think all fentanyl is the same strength. I think there's sometimes it doesn't take very much at all, and it'll kill people off. And sometimes, they're just doing the fentanyl straight. They're also lacing cocaine with fentanyl, and it was making the cocaine pink. And so people were wondering, why is there pink cocaine? And it's being laced with all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's a mess. It is really a mess. It's some high-end narcotics right there.
Yeah, it's just a Russian roulette. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You never know if you're going to get a live round that day. So I just stay away from that group of people as much as possible. But even that bleeds over into my lifestyle because I can't get out and enjoy fresh air. I went from Monday afternoon till Thursday morning before I had a breath of fresh air because these other people want to do silly things.
Yeah,
it's just frustrating, to say the least.
Yeah,
but it's what I signed up for, I reckon.
Well, it's still interesting nonetheless on how they're trying to what appears to have the inmates police themselves over the drug stuff, or basically do like a group punishment, which would ultimately put more peer pressure on those getting busted for drugs. You have 1 minute left. Getting busted for drugs, it seems like. Now, in your 11 years that you've been incarcerated, almost 11 years on this thing, you were talking a little bit about, you either, what other inmates have told me is you either fight or give up your stuff or other bad things that happen. Have you been shaken down? Have you had to stand your ground to not lose your stuff in these years of incarceration, or has there been somewhat peace?
Yeah. First year, I got jumped and hit with something so hard it took 7 stitches and almost knocked me out. But then I wouldn't tell them what happened, and they put me in the hole for 16 months.
For how many months?
So 16.
16 months?
Yeah, they sent me to what's called SMU. It's like a special handling unit where you don't even come out of your cell unless you're in custody, and that's to go to a shower.
Wow, sounds like death row of Texas, bro. Wow, so, all right. So
the only difference is you're a 2-man cell.
Okay.
Lucky me, I was in with a psychopath anyway.
Okay, so take me back to the assault, your assault. What happened? How did it go down?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Boss, and I'm the host of Behind the Bars. First, I want to thank you for watching, sharing, and supporting our channel. This project means the world to us because it's about giving a voice to the unheard. The men and women behind the bars who share their raw, unfiltered stories of life, mistakes, redemption, and lessons learned. But here's the reality. Because of the nature of our content, Behind the Bars will never be monetized by YouTube. And that's okay. We're not doing this for the money, but to keep telling you these stories, to keep bringing you interviews from across the plains, we need your help. Right now, we're sitting on over 15 incredible interviews that are waiting to be edited and shared. We've got the footage, but we need the resources. More interviews mean more editors, more work, and a bigger team to make this vision a reality. And that's where you come in. By becoming a Patreon today, you're not just helping bring us these stories to life. You're also getting exclusive access to behind the scenes conversations and untold stories that won't be available on YouTube. These are the moments that take you deeper into the lives of our interviewees, as well as the challenges and triumphs we face while we are creating this channel. If you've ever been moved by one of these stories, if you believe in the power of second chances and in a shining light on the human experience, please consider supporting us. With your help, we can reach further and roll out even more of the content you love. So from the bottom of my heart and from all of us here at Behind the Bars, thank you for being a part of this journey. Much love to you, y'all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
What was that incident?
Well, I'm in here for a crime that most people probably don't do. I'm in here for, let's say, an act of vengeance.
Hold on. You said you're in for what?
An act of vengeance.
Act of vengeance. Okay.
I took revenge.
Yeah.
It wasn't really revenge, more than vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
It was frontier justice, is what the psychiatrist called it.
Okay.
And whenever you do that, and I had nothing against the law or anything, and I just turned myself in. Well, whenever you go to prison, they have to see your paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in my paperwork that I turned myself in. Well, if you go rat your own self out, you'll rat anybody else out. So they tested me right off the bat. Well, they jumped me, right? And to see if I'm going to rat people out, and I didn't until I went on to SMU.
You went into
for a year and a half.
Right, the whole, what's it called, the S what?
SMU, Special Handling.
SMU?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what it stands for.
No, were these white guys, or black guys, or Mexicans, or who exactly jumped you over this?
It's white.
White guys. And
that was in general population.
And if you turn yourself in, they say that is bad paperwork?
That I'm a rat.
Because you turned yourself in.
Being a rat. See?
Because you turned yourself in. Okay, that makes zero sense.
Yeah. It wasn't because of you or rapist, it was because I turned myself in.
I see. Okay, now and then what happened? How did this go down? With a couple of guys, or?
Well, I only saw one, and he hit me with something, and it split the top of my head up, and from then on I was blinded because I had blood in my eyes. And then when they broke it up, I don't know if it was 2 or 3. I just saw the first one, and I saw one behind him. So I don't know how many actually. Because like I said, it must have been a piece of metal because it just opened the top of my head up. And after I come out of the infirmary that night, I sit there in a special little cell while they grilled me about why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't know why it happened. And they said, no, you know why, you got a drug bill. I said, I don't have a drug bill. You can drug test me. I didn't forget you. Well, you did something. I said, no, I didn't do nothing. So they think the cops thought I was holding out on them. So whenever you go to a GP yard, you're in a structured environment. They read your paperwork when you come on to see what you did. Who on people like the ones?
Who read your papers, the guards or the inmates?
The inmates.
How do they read your papers?
You have to give them their paperwork.
Oh, they literally take your paperwork and read it.
They come to your cell and get your paperwork, and they keep it that night and read it. The head reads it. And if you're, let's say, suspicious, or they send soldiers in on you.
And this is all white guys that run it like this, right?
Yeah, white.
And if you were black, if you were in the black dorm, obviously it would just go down the same way, but just whatever color of race it is that what happens?
That's your general population. Like I was with the brotherhood out here, and I really, after that happened, and I didn't say nothing, you know. You can't go nowhere without somebody that you ain't been with that don't show up at some time. Yeah. So it's just it's a culture shock when you come inside after being in the world, especially in my case, because I spent 3 days in the early and I catch a live charge.
Hold on.
That was a real
hold on. It said you did what with 3 days with what?
I only spent 3 days in jail in the early 80s for DUI.
Right.
Then I catch a lot of culture shock.
Right. Now, you, after the 16th month that you did in, like, I guess a two-man solitary kind of thing, and you got out, did you get, were you back into this same group of guys, or did they put you in the different housing?
I went to a different prison.
Okay. And what happened there? Did the same thing happen? I mean, everybody grabbed your papers, read them. What was the scoop at that place?
Well, apparently I was all right that time because nobody ever come back. They done seen I wouldn't say nothing.
Now, do they house the pedophiles and the rapos in the same housing as the rest of you guys?
No, I have a special prison, special yards.
See, I found that
mix.
Yeah, I found that fascinating because in Idaho they did the same thing with us. That the pedophiles had to PC up and the rapos because that was the first people that people just wanted to mess with because they just were kind of bored. But in Texas, everybody's all together. Like all the pedos and the rapos, they're all together, and I found that very, very interesting as well. So it's interesting that your prison.
Well, I expect a lot of them.
But
I would expect a lot of them get killed.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You know, a lot of people out there probably have no idea what we're even talking about, but in the prison system, there's obviously a ranking system of good crime versus bad crime, and good paperwork versus bad paperwork. Explain to me, Barry, a little bit about the structure of who's legit. And I mean, where you have a murder crime, I mean, you're far more legit than the rest of the guys that, you know, are in there for like different kind of stuff. I mean, that's how I always thought of the dudes doing time for murder, is they were like way more hardcore than just the regular dudes who are, you know, just in there for he's something way smaller. Tell me about your world of that.
Well, after I made it over to that prison after I was locked down for 16 months, I went to it was a notoriously violent place. I won't give the name of it, but it's pretty well known in this state for being the murder capital as far as the prison system goes. Well, when you come in my prison like that, the day I rolled in on the bus, there was a lot of people got straight off the bus and went to protective custody because they did not want to be in the system. But in my case, I just said, heck with it. I'm not coming out of here alive anyway. So I went on in, and I guess the father was watching over me because I never had no more trouble after that first incident at the other prison. Whenever you come in with your paperwork and you're a murderer, you did a murder kind of on the upper tier of rankings, you know.
Yep.
You already paid for some type of respect for what you're capable of doing, you know.
Yep.
And I guess in my case, since I was in my 60s, I had that and being an elder, and I had really no trouble. And it wasn't that bad. I saw people killed while I was there, but I felt safer there than I do in a integrated yard because there's not as much structure in here.
Mm. And what was the first person that you saw killed in prison? What was that event and how'd that go down?
Well, I was going to chow one day and this race was having a war.
The race? What'd you say, the race?
Well, it was the Native Americans, they're known as chiefs.
Okay.
And, the different tribes don't like each other. So I saw a 2-on-1 where one got knocked down with a broom and they jumped on him and drove to his ear into his brain.
Hold on. Okay, you're saying that this was like a Native American fight where a couple of Native Americans were attacking another Native American? And what did they drive through his ear?
Yes.
What was through his ear?
A pencil.
A pencil.
Or probably a pen. I didn't see it. I just seen the blood everywhere.
Wow. So what were your thoughts when that happened, when that went down?
Oh, I was glad I wasn't in that tribe one day. It's like anything else, you get jaded in here, and it takes some of your humanity away.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be real compassionate and understanding and kind, but that's a weakness in here.
Mm.
So it's a fine line you walk between being a good person and a bad person, to be honest with you. So I don't want to be I could be a bad person, I guess, but I don't want to be that way anymore. I never really felt like I was a bad person, but I did do a bad thing. Sometimes a bad person can do the right thing for the wrong. The right thing wrong, and that's what I did, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I took the Father's place in ministering justice that day.
Yeah. As they say, though, hindsight's 20/20, right? What would you do without reflection? And I've asked a couple of guys on death row this, and it's interesting the answer they give me. But if you could
have 1 minute left,
if you could live the rest of your life as a free man, but yet you would die to your sins and you would have eternity in hell, or what you have right now, where would you be? What would your choice be?
I'd do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I can be with the Father. It don't matter how long I'm in here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I get a lot of interesting comments on this thing. All right, so I know you won't say the name of the prison, the one crazy prison, the murdering prison of what everybody knows. But when you came out of your 16th month after you got clocked in the head, you were shipped off and you were getting off the bus. You were shackled you're shackled at your hands or the waist, right? When your hands are to your side and your feet are shackled, correct?
I'm like that if I go anywhere. Well, not now, but I'm saying if I'm off the yard, I'm always leg irons and waist chains. But when you're in that place, I was slammed down for that 16 months. But whenever you leave the cell, even to go to a shower, I had to be handcuffed to walk 5 feet. The cell I was actually in was next door to the shower. But that's just standard procedure when you're in that part.
Now, you were around? One more time.
It's super loud, and you don't want to be there very long. So I walked. I was very cooperative. I could get out of there as quick as possible.
Now, when you were in that solitary confinement for 16 months, you were around a lot of other dudes that had some of the same incidents, or at least incidents that were down there. What kind of people did you meet in the hole during those 16 months?
Just my cellmate, because you don't mix with other guys.
Okay, so you had the same dude for 16 months?
Yep.
And what ended him up in the hole? Why did he end up there?
He was in there for murder. I don't know. I can't remember why he was in the special handling. But like I said, he was like what we would say, like a goose. He would wake up in a different world each day. You never knew what side of the bed he was getting up on, so you had to walk on eggshells.
You're talking
to see where he was coming from.
You're talking to your celly that was in.
Celly.
And you said he was a psychopath, right? Is that the guy you were referring to a while ago?
Yeah.
And so, did you have bottom bunk or top bunk?
I had top.
Okay. And
that way it was easier for him. I could stay up there and be easy to jump down if I had to.
Now, did you ever worry about going to bed with this guy below you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was your...
I usually would wake him to go sleep. I'm a light sleeper anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I've been robbed. Out in the world, I got robbed in the 70s. I had a guy standing over my bed in the middle of the night, robbing me. I've been robbed at gunpoint in New Orleans in a cemetery, broad daylight.
Wow.
So you have to watch people you're around.
All right, so back to getting off the bus at this new prison. What were you thinking getting off this bus, knowing that you were going into this hardcore prison? Were you nervous, or how did that go down?
Well, at the time, I still smoked. I was wanting a cigarette so bad, I really didn't think much beyond to getting a cigarette. But, it so happened that there was an older man. He was I would think, a hitman for the Cartel, and I wheeled him in on a wheelchair. He was older than me. I watched him go out in a body bag. Somebody strangled him one night. He was in the same pod I was in. I watched him do CPR on him, and the rigor was already set in.
And there was the guards trying to do CPR?
No, that was the nurses or the medical staff there. But he'd been strangled during the night, and they found him that morning. He was probably not even 15 feet from outside my door.
Did you hear anything go down?
Do CPR. Huh?
Did you hear anything go down that night?
No, I didn't hear that. But I knew him, and he's probably like I am. Say he'd do things before he thinks it through sometimes.
Hold on, repeat that if you will. He's like you, that what?
He probably would say or do things sometimes without thinking it through.
And so you thought this guy was like a hitman for the mafia? This guy that got strangled?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he worked for the Cartel.
What's some of the craziest stories you heard in that first prison that you were in? Getting thrown in there with, you're amongst killers, and probably serial killers as well. I mean, what do you...
Well, this one feller I met, which was a really nice guy, his name was Hatchet, his nickname. I said, "Bro, how'd you get such a weird name, Hatchet?" And for people in Notoriously, it's a small axe. And apparently, he caught a guy coming in through his window. And the guy stuck his head in, and he just went to work with a hatchet. Well, that probably wouldn't have been so bad if he'd have called the police, but he decided he was doing some shady business himself. So he just chopped him up and buried him in the backyard.
Amazing. And so he got, he got life or what?
Oh, I feel pretty sure he was doing a lot of time.
That's hilarious. I don't think that's hilarious, but that's very interesting.
Yeah. I said, man, I've met people that did that. I knew another guy who shot a guy that was coming in his house, but he was doing shady business. He said, well, I'm just going to carry him out the desert and bury him. But apparently the guy was bigger than he was, so he enlisted help. And his help ratted him out.
How many stories do you hear of where it's usually the other person that has ratted somebody out, and there's a person that's doing free time, and the dude, there's always like an accomplice or somebody that just took the fall guy. Do you see that a lot?
Well, that's why they want to see your paperwork, see if you got a co-defendant. That way they know if they check around, these people have ways to find things out, you know. It's not that hard anymore. You know, if you got somebody on the outside of the computer, he can find most anything out on anyone. So, since I had no codependence, that was a plus. But the only thing was, when you turn yourself in, that kind of looks like you were a rat. Even though it wasn't the case, I just was, morally, I was starting to repent as soon as this happened. So I was, you know, I guess letting myself out of the way, but I was really just repenting and starting a long road of, you know, turning everything around. It's just, I had a lot of extenuating circumstances, I think, in my case. And some of them were supernatural, and a lot of people don't understand that. You know, I think it was demonic influences that helped me along the way. They tend to get a hold of you sometimes.
Yeah, and for anybody that has not listened to that podcast, guys, there's a lot of podcasts out there right now. I think there's 4 that we have that we talk from everything from the beginning all the way to almost where we are right now. And so, guys, please make sure you guys tune in. And I'm sure Barry would like to get letters. I mean, you would like to get letters from people, right?
I like to get letters. I'm old school. I've been the generation that used to write one another.
Now,
and I do write back.
Okay, and so for anybody that wants to write Barry, like always, his address is below, and that's one way to write him, and that's the old snail mail way, and there's also a new method, which is called Securus, and so there'll be videos on this channel as well where I go in depth and teach people how they can actually use Securus a little bit easier. Now, heading back into this, you told me about the first murder and another strangulation of this guy. What happened during the first, 3 or 4 years of your, 11 years? You made it to this, sketchy sounding prison. How long did you do there before you were moved to the next one, or what was the happenings?
Well, I had to stay in the maximum holding, which was 5 yards, for 5 years since I was a violent offender. And about the 4th year into that, I happened to be caught in a riot. That was an experience,
So, but how did that go down? How'd that riot go down? And how'd you get caught up in that?
Well, it started in a chow between races of Bible things cutting in line. And
so you said it
where we was walking down.
You said it happened between races? Like we're talking like black-white thing?
Yeah, it was between the black and whites this day.
And so somebody jumped in the middle of another dude, and then that was enough to start some action?
Well, that was a general population, and there's a certain order that you even enter a chow hall, and there's certain places in the chow hall that you sit. Well, when someone tries to change that rule, that's pushback, and once one instant grows, it grows all into a riot. And it's just races, those 2 races are going to war. And you're locked down to the heads, get it all straightened out.
So what happens during a riot? Are you involved in the actual fighting? Are you defending yourself, or are you just like trying to get out of the mix?
Well, I just happened to be, I saw it right before it started happening. I was on the way out the door, and literally within seconds, I was pushed out the door by the Spanish people because they were getting cleared in the chow hall for the blacks and the whites to go at it. And I was out there, and I was quickly escorted to another area segregating Spanish people because they didn't know what was going on here. It was happening, you know. Once that starts, it's just a free for all sometimes. And it's no place you want to be if you're, you know, the wrong team.
Yeah. I've definitely heard about some of these guys, and I've heard about guys that are inside of like the White Pride or the Aryan Brothers, and they, you know, they go after like the Mexicans or something of the sort, and it's just everybody knows. You know, another story a brother told me from Texas is that he was involved in this, and they all heard right before chow that there was something going down, and he's like, it was real quiet in that chow hall, and then all of a sudden somebody popped off, and everybody just goes crazy. So, you made it out of that one. Have you seen another riot in your days, or is that the only one you've seen?
Well, that was the only riot I've been in. I can't say if I've been in another one, because a lot of times you don't ever hear the stories. You know, you just hear rumors of what happened, so you can't say for sure. But that day I knew exactly what was happening. I saw it starting to come about, but I happened to be in the right place at the right time and got pushed out the door, so I wasn't involved in the fighting.
Now, are you... Go ahead. You, of course, what?
But, of course, I get to reap the benefits of being slammed down for almost 3 weeks like everybody else to get straightened out.
Right. Right. Okay. So I think we want to probably wrap this up. I think we got like another minute or two, but this is going to be like a 45-minute podcast. If we go too much longer than the people, I will never make it to the end of these things, and I really want people to be involved in this. So, Barry, let's do on some final touches on, you know, things you want to leave the world with, inspiration or advice. You have 1 minute left. Common sense stuff. Whatever you got the last minute.
Well, all I can say is that, like you said, you asked me before if I'd do anything different. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have gotten this close to the father. And I think if I stay here another million years, it'd be worse if I can spend the rest of eternity with him, you know. So I'm just glad that I'm found the father again, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, my brother and my friend, I thank you very, very much. Thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for talking to everybody. Much love to you. I'll catch you on email, and we will get together again real soon.
All right.
All right, brother. All right. Much love, brother.
Yep.
All right. See ya.